Nora didn't like to talk too much. She minded her business, attended lectures, was always on time. She didn't wear makeup, didn't go out, and used a small little phone with a missing back cover. She was in her second year at OAU. Her hostel room was small, hot, and always noisy at night. But she didn't complain. She'd grown up with less. Her mother sold pap and akra at the junction near their house. Her father left when she was 8. She had 2 younger siblings, and most of what Nora got from her scholarship went back home. She didn't have time for parties or popularity. Then she met Sandra. It was a Friday morning and the sun was already hot by 8 a.m. Nora had overslept, and as she rushed to catch a lecture, her phone slipped and broke on the corridor. She sighed and bent to pick it up. "Omo, this phone don't see things," a voice said behind her. She turned. Sandra stood there smiling. New braids, perfect lashes, AirPods in. Her perfume filled the whole hallway. She laughed and handed Nora one of her books that had fallen. That was the first day they talked. Sandra was different. Loud, confident, funny. Her father was a politician. Her room was bigger, neater, with a small fridge and mirror lights. She always had snacks, creams, perfume, things Nora had never even thought to ask for. She started inviting Nora over. They'd eat together, study together, sleep in the same bed sometimes. "You're too serious," Sandra used to say. "You need to enjoy life small." She bought Nora a new phone case, took her out for shawarma, taught her how to fix her brows, even helped her take better pictures for WhatsApp. Nora didn't even know she was changing. Her clothes, her tone, the way she smiled in photos, it was all Sandra's touch. Then came the shift. One afternoon, a girl from their class had asked Nora a question in the hallway. Before she could answer, Sandra appeared beside her and said with a smile, "That one. She won't talk to you if you're not on her level." Oh. She laughed it off, but something about it made Nora's chest tighten. Another day, Sandra told her, "Sometimes I feel like I made you. Before me you were just there." Nora smiled, but the words stuck. Then came the internship offer. The top 5 students in their department were to be selected. Nora was number 3. Sandra didn't make the list. At first, Sandra acted normal. She even helped Nora update her CV and fine-tune her cover letter. "Let me print it for you," she said. "My dad has someone in that company. I'll help you submit." Nora was touched. She didn't know that would be her biggest mistake. 3 days later, a list was posted on the department board. Sandra's name was there. Nora's wasn't. She stared at the paper, confused. She ran to the coordinator's office. "You submitted a corrected CGPA," the woman said. "It didn't meet the benchmark. Your friend brought it." Her heart dropped. Only one person had that file. Only one person she trusted. By the time she got back to the room, Sandra was packing. "Life is not fair, babe," she said, not even looking at her. "Use it to learn." Nora stood there quietly. She didn't cry that night. She didn't scream. She just packed her bag and left. Nora didn't say a word to anyone. She kept going to class. Ate less. Slept less. She was still showing up, but not really there. Then one evening, someone knocked on her window. It was Sandra. No lashes. No makeup. Just a takeaway plate in hand. "You've lost weight," she said. "Eat something." Nora didn't answer. Sandra placed the food on the table, slipped some cash under it, and left. No apology. No mention of what happened. After that day, she started showing up again. Waiting after class. Walking Nora back. Slipping folded cash into her hand like it was normal. "For your mum and your siblings." Nora took it. Not because she forgave her, but because it was harder not to. Sandra never brought up the internship. She acted like nothing happened. She still looked perfect. New wig, new phone, fresh nails. The boys still hovered. The lecturers still greeted her like a VIP. She laughed louder. Smelled like money. She had a different man every 2 weeks. The kind that drove tinted cars and handed her brown envelopes. And when they gave her gifts, she shared. "He wanted to get me something, so I told him I wasn't alone," Sandra said one day, dropping a small gift on Nora's table. "You're like family now, nah." Nora smiled like she was supposed to, but she always left them untouched at the back of her locker. They still shared a bed some nights. Sandra would drift off easily, breathing softly. Nora stayed awake, staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks. Not once had a guy chosen her. Not even Remy, the one she had quietly admired for months. One afternoon Sandra laughed and said, "That Remy boy tried to toast me. But please, he is not fine, I beg." Nora laughed too. But later that night she deleted his number. Quietly. Without blinking. Then the invitations started. House parties. Lounge hangouts. Group dinners. Sandra made sure Nora was always included. To outsiders they looked close again. To outsiders it looked like the friendship was healing. They were seen together again. At cafes, on group outings, riding back from campus in tinted cars with boys who smelled of cologne and entitlement. One weekend the boys took them out of town. They stayed at a short-let apartment in Lekki, ate suya on a balcony with a sea view, and came back with nylon bags full of gifts. The laughter came easier that weekend. The food tasted sweeter. And for a moment Nora almost forgot. Forgot the internship. Forgot the betrayal. Forgot how quiet she'd been since that day in the coordinator's office. Sandra was making her laugh again. Calling her my babe. Nora didn't sleep that night. She lay on her back, eyes open in the dark, listening to the slow hum of the ceiling fan and Sandra's quiet breathing beside her. And in the silence she made herself a promise. I will never let anyone carry me like I'm their charity case again. It wasn't anger that birthed the vow. It was exhaustion. From pretending. From swallowing things too heavy for one mouth. From always being the one who said thank you, even when her chest felt hollow. But life as usual had its own plans. The next morning Sandra dressed quickly. Her face bare but still effortlessly pretty, her perfume too loud for 9 a.m. I'm meeting someone in Ikoyi, she said, brushing the ends of her wig in the mirror. I told them you couldn't come. No space in the ride. Nora nodded. It's fine. Sandra flashed her that familiar smile, the one she used when she knew she had the upper hand, and left. Nora stayed back in the room alone. Ate plain boiled yam with too much palm oil. Scrolled aimlessly. Tried not to think. By noon her phone vibrated. It was a forwarded message. Then another. Then a video link with the caption, "You know her?" Nora clicked it. The footage was shaky, shot on someone's phone. The inside of a busy supermarket. Shouting. Movement. And then, a girl on the floor. Hair scattered. Face streaked with something, sweat? Tears? People surrounded her. Some were filming. Some were yelling. What did she take? Check her bag. Call the manager. Nora's throat dried. The camera angle shifted just enough and her chest dropped. It was Sandra. The girl everyone knew for her confidence. Her composure. Her quiet luxury. And here she was, crouched on a tiled floor, blouse torn at the shoulder, eyes wide with shame. Another video had started to circulate, this time from outside. Sandra being dragged. A crowd closing in. Someone waving a stick in the air like justice came from pain. And then suddenly a sleek black car pulled up. Two men stepped out. Well-dressed. Too calm for the chaos. One of them raised his hand and said simply, "That's enough." The video cut off there. But what the world didn't see was what came after. Sandra wasn't just rescued. She was taken. Inside the car, one of them finally turned to her and said calmly, "You know what you did. They could have finished you. But we didn't let them. Ask yourself why." Sandra sat quietly, her hands in her lap. The second man leaned forward. "We want something. Nothing loud. Just loyalty, silence, and you get your life back. Maybe even something better." Sandra didn't ask where they were going. She just nodded. The shame in her chest sat like stone. She didn't return that night. Or the next. No calls. No posts. Nora checked her location. The dot was gone. Every night for the next 4 days she lay awake wondering, who were those men? What exactly did they want from her? And why hadn't she called? Then on the 5th morning Sandra walked in. Quietly. As if nothing had happened. She placed a nylon bag on the table. "I brought you something." Nora didn't speak. Sandra didn't explain. She didn't bring up the video. Didn't offer excuses. Didn't say sorry. She just dropped the bag, pulled off her shoes, and lay on the bed like the world hadn't just seen her come undone. The days that followed blurred into soft shadows. Sandra never explained where she'd been. She just moved differently now. Quieter. Sharper. Always stepping out, never saying where. And when she came back there was always something new. Small, expensive, silent. New slides. A faint gold anklet. Perfume that smelled like international departure lounges and locked drawers. Nora noticed. But she didn't ask. She couldn't. Because lately, Nora hadn't been herself either. She no longer woke early for lectures. Missed roll call. Sat in the room all day sometimes, staring at the same paragraph in a textbook she no longer believed in. Once or twice her classmates knocked on the door. She didn't answer. Because something inside her was shifting, slowly then all at once. One evening Sandra walked in early. She leaned in the doorway watching Nora with curious eyes. "Get dressed," she said. Nora blinked up from the bed. "Why?" "He wants to meet you." Nora's brows pulled. "Who?" Sandra's smile was soft. Almost too soft. "Someone important. He asked of you." "Don't embarrass me." Nora hesitated. Sandra crossed the room, pulled a silk dress from Nora's hanger, one she'd never dared wear. "Put this on. He'll like you." The car came before 8. Silent. But expensive in a way that didn't scream. It whispered. The ride to Ikoyi felt like a drift. He couldn't think. Could barely breathe. When they arrived, the air changed. Not just cleaner. Calculated. The house wasn't big just for display. It was intentional. From the marble floors to the heavy doors that opened without a knock. And inside, Chairman was waiting. He didn't need to raise his voice. He didn't need gold chains or designer logos. The room shifted just by his stillness. He looked at her once. That was enough. "So this is her." Sandra laughed lightly, too lightly. "She's quiet but she's sharp." Chairman nodded. "Good." He asked Nora her name, her school, her plans, her home. And then, "Relax. You're safe here." That night they didn't stay long. But before they left, a brown envelope landed in Sandra's bag. Nora saw Sandra's jaw twitch when it landed. She also saw how she didn't smile. The next morning Nora's phone lit up. A message from an unknown number. "There's something rare about your quiet. Stay close to Sandra. For now." She didn't reply. But she stared at it for a long time. And when it was time for her 10 a.m. lecture, she didn't go. The gifts came slowly after that. First a new phone pouch. Then spa money, neatly folded with a note. "You deserve to breathe." Sandra dropped them on her bed like it meant nothing. "He said you looked stressed. He likes you." Nora said thank you. But in her mind doors were opening and not all of them felt safe. Weeks passed. Chairman stopped asking for Sandra. He asked for Nora. And it showed. Sandra's voice got flatter. Her laughter less full. One day she muttered under her breath, "Don't forget who opened the door for you. Oh. No go form." Nora only nodded. But in that nod was a silence Sandra couldn't read. That night Chairman sent his driver for Nora alone. She stood by the mirror, lip gloss in hand. Sandra sat on the bed, arms crossed, phone untouched. "You don't even ask me where we're going anymore," she said. Nora paused. "You told me to trust you." Sandra smiled. But it didn't reach her eyes. "Exactly." Chairman was quiet that night. Observing. Then he placed the envelope in her hand himself. And when she hesitated he said, "Sandra was just the gate. You're the reason I opened it." Nora didn't speak. But something cracked softly inside her. Back at the room Sandra was awake. No lights. Phone in hand. Pretending. "You came back early," she murmured. Nora didn't reply. She placed the envelope gently in her drawer. And sat still. Because now she understood. This wasn't a friendship anymore. It was a slow war. A soft betrayal. And something between them, whatever had survived the shame, the silence, the debt, was breaking again. Nora had stopped attending lectures altogether. First it was subtle. A class missed here. A forgotten test there. But soon school became background noise, distant and irrelevant. Because every other night a black car would come for her. And inside it, power. Chairman wasn't loud. He wasn't young. But his presence swallowed the air. With him she didn't have to beg. Or explain. Or pretend. He asked questions. About her dreams, her childhood, her pain. "I see potential in you," he'd say. And then he'd show it. With brown envelopes, spa appointments, dinner dates with his business associates. He never touched her. Not once. But he watched. Watched the way she stirred tea. Watched the way she listened more than she spoke. Meanwhile Sandra watched too. From the corner of the room. From behind fake smiles. From beside a mirror she no longer stood in front of as often. because the spotlight had shifted. And she wasn't used to that. One night, Sandra stood by the window, arms folded. Nora was dressing up. Another private meeting. Another silent driver outside. Sandra spoke without looking at her. You don't even say thank you anymore. Nora paused, turning slowly. For what? For everything, Sandra snapped, eyes flashing. I brought you into this. You think Chairman would have noticed you if not for me? Nora took a deep breath. Maybe. But I didn't ask you to. Sandra's lips trembled. That was the moment it cracked. The next week things started to shift. Chairman's calls stopped coming. His driver didn't show up. And when Nora messaged, no reply. Sandra returned to her old routines. Too helpful, too cheerful. He must be busy, she'd say, serving Nora food she didn't ask for. Big men like that, they always have phases. But Nora knew something was wrong. Until one night after eating Sandra's food, Nora collapsed. A sharp pain in her stomach. Her breath short. Her skin cold. She was rushed to the school clinic. The doctors pumped her stomach. She barely survived. Tests revealed it. Traces of a harmful substance. The hostel management called the police. And once again the CCTV revealed the truth. Sandra. In the kitchen. Mixing something into Nora's soup. Her face blank. Her hands steady. She was arrested at dawn. Her screams echoed through the compound. She took everything from me. Everything. This time there was no doubt. Attempted murder. Chairman's lawyer pressed charges. The school suspended her. The story hit blogs within hours. Nora. She sat in silence, her body still weak, but her eyes wide open. Chairman didn't call. When she finally gathered the strength to reach out, he picked once. My wife is back. You were a distraction. Don't call again. The line went dead. Her chest felt like it folded in on itself. Everything was gone. Her future. Her degree. Her peace. Her illusions. The news spread fast. Not just about Sandra but Nora too. The scholarship board caught wind of everything. Her absences. The scandal. Her association with a married man. Within days her scholarship was revoked. Nora was dismissed from school. When she returned home her mother cried. Not just cried, wailed. How could you forget where you're coming from? All my sacrifices. Everything we suffered so you could go to school. This is what you turned it into. Nora couldn't speak. Because what could she say? Weeks later Sandra surrendered fully. She broke down in her cell. Cried for hours. But it didn't matter. Because some mistakes can't be undone. Nora didn't attend the trial. She stayed at her aunt's. Quiet. Isolated. No more wigs. No perfume. No lies. Just healing. Because in the end Sandra didn't just betray her. She tried to end her. And Chairman? He was never hers. He was just the bait that proved the cost of misplaced trust. Nora learned the hard way. Not everyone who lifts you wants to see you rise. Some just want a better view when you fall. And that trust? It broke her. But it didn't bury her. She rose anyway. Wiser. Stronger. And finally free.